Hey, good afternoon to you. 506 now, News Talk 105.9 WMAL. We're making sense of the news. Coming up on the program, Charlie Spiering joins us this hour at 5:30 from the Daily Mail on the steps the left may be taking to drag Joe Biden, not just off stage, but out of the presidency. More on that ahead. You can join us, 888-630-9625, 888-630-WMAL. Yeah, that video from this weekend, Biden at a fundraiser, dragged off stage by Barack Obama after he appeared to freeze up. Here's a question put to, it's barely a question, some propagandists today asking the White House, isn't it mean that people keep being mean about Joe Biden?
There seems to be a sort of rash of videos that have been edited to make the president appear especially frail or mentally confused. I'm wondering if the White House is especially worried about the fact that this appears to be a pattern that we're seeing more of.
Yeah, and I think you all have called this the cheap fakes video, and that's exactly what they are. They are cheap fakes video. They are done in bad faith, and some of your news organization have been very clear, have stressed that these the right wing critics of the president have a credibility problem.
Yeah, these are cheap fakes, says Coringe. For more on this, let's bring in the chairman of the Republican National Committee, Michael Whatley, is here. A lot to talk about with this gentleman. Sir, good to have you with us.
It's good to be on with you, Vince.
They're mad at you. They're mad that you're sharing videos of the president in public, sir.
Look, I got to be honest with you. I get upset by those videos, too, because every time we see one of them, it just reminds the world how weak America is under Joe Biden's leadership. Look, I mean, when you have major international news organizations putting out videos for it, it's pretty tough to call them cheap fakes.
Yeah, I mean, so the claim that reporter made and that Karine Jean-Pierre, confirmed, I guess, is, that video was edited. I saw the RNC accounts sharing these videos this weekend. I didn't see any edits in them. Were there edits in those videos?
Not at all. I mean, we're literally taking the raw footage and we're putting it back up and amplifying it back out there. Look, I mean, the fact is that the president, has caused concern not just here but among our allies. I mean, we saw a number of different news stories talked about how the world leaders at the G7 were expressing shock and concern over, his physical well-being, the fact that he skipped a dinner. I mean, these are not things that we're making up. At the same time, we spent, 4 days on a West Coast swing with Donald Trump, where he was, raising $32.5 million and doing public events in Phoenix and Los Angeles. This last week, he was doing a major, black roundtable at a historic black church in Detroit before appearing, before the Turning Point Action Conference. That one candidate is clearly setting the pace for the party and for his campaign, that being Donald Trump. And one candidate who is really, truly having a hard time, getting off the stage at a fundraiser.
And then 10 days from now, we've got that debate between the two of them, Joe Biden and Donald Trump, sitting together inside of a CNN studio in Atlanta. That'll be moderated by Jake Tapper and Dana Bash. I'm looking at the rules that have just been released this weekend, Michael Whatley, for this debate. Again, 90 minutes. It'll have 2 commercial breaks. Both candidates will be at uniform podiums. They'll be standing. Podium positions will be determined by coin flip. Microphones set to be muted during the debate when the candidate's not up, when it's not their turn. No props or pre-written notes allowed, but they will be given a pen and a pad of paper and a bottle of water. No studio audience. I see some lefty commentators today admitting that this is really built for Joe Biden's advantage, all of it. What do you make of this debate, and what should we expect from it?
Well, as President Trump said, he would take any debate anywhere on any platform in order to be able to show the American people the difference between these two men. And, it is very telling that all of these advantages that they're trying to build in there for Joe Biden, President Trump is like, fine, just let's go have this conversation, because you have 2 absolutely full terms ready to go in terms of your proof points, right? So we've got 4 years under President Trump. What was he able to accomplish, and the strength that he showed in the U.S. economy and on the world stage versus the weakness of Joe Biden. And we're not going to be able to have that conversation presented to the American people in any format better than a debate. And, if Joe Biden is able to stand at that podium for 90 minutes without notes and have a conversation with the American people, yep, great. But even if he is, he's not going to be able to tell them the economy is strong. He's not going to be able to tell them that the border is secure, and he's not going to be able to tell them that we're in a great place internationally.
I do think that the reason you're hearing some panic from the White House today about all of these videos going around of Biden is not because you and I have noticed, Michael Whatley, but because their own base is beginning to notice. And I do wonder to what extent, we'll talk to Charlie Spiering coming up here in a few minutes from the Daily Mail. He's got some reporting on this subject. But I do wonder to what extent you think Joe Biden really will be the nominee come Election Day. Do you think there's some chance he won't be?
Look, I think if there is any way for him to be the nominee, he's going to be the nominee. The Democratic Party is going to have to take a unbelievably serious change of pace to be able to make that change. And, Jill Biden, who's handling these issues for the president, is pushing very, very aggressively for him to remain on the ticket. So, I think that if you are the Democrats, you're running out of time. I mean, they're going to have this roll call vote next month before their convention to be able to ensure that he's on the ticket in Ohio.
Yes.
So if you're going to make a change, they're really truly running out of time.
By the way, that roll call vote, they're going to do that virtually, as I understand it. That means that the convention that they'll hold later in the year is basically going to be a fake convention. There's not going to actually be a real official vote there, is there?
Yeah, that's what we're hearing, and I know that they also are very concerned about having too many people in the hall or too much going on because they're worried about the riots, which again goes right back to the weakness that Joe Biden puts on the table. The reason they're having riots is because of his positioning around the world and causing the chaos in the Middle East that he has, and the fact that he has supported policies to defund the police, and they're worried about the safety of all of the Democratic, activists and folks that are going to be at their convention.
You've been on this job for a few months now, sir. Michael Whatley, the RNC chairman, is on the phone with us. And in that time frame, you and the co-chair there, Laura Trump, have made it really clear that your focus is on election integrity. Lots of questions, I think, among especially Republican voters about how free and fair the 2024 election will be. What efforts are you undertaking right now to ensure it is?
Yeah, so we've got two major initiatives that we're pushing. One of them is what we have to do before Election Day, and that is to get the right rules of the road in place in every state. So we want the laws, the rules, the regulations that govern elections to ensure that they're going to be fair and accurate, secure and transparent. So we want only American citizens to vote. We want voter ID in place. We want to make sure that states are cleaning up their voter rolls. And if states are going to have early absentee, or mail-in balloting, you've got to have protections in place. Things like witness requirements, signature requirements. We don't want those ballots going into drop boxes. We want them going into U.S. postal boxes. And so we're working with legislatures, governors, and boards of elections, secretaries of state, wherever we can, and we're going to court wherever we can't. We filed 91 lawsuits already in 25 different states around the country to make sure we have the rules in the right way. The second thing that we're doing is we are focusing on being in the room. It's absolutely critical for us to have lawyers and observers in the room anytime that a vote is being cast or a vote is being counted. And in order to kind of build up national awareness of what we're doing, we've built a website, protectthevote.com, where people can go onto the website, sign up, get trained, and get deployed to be part of our election integrity team. And then we're also doing a series of workshops around the country to make sure that people are aware of all that we're doing and signing up for it. So we're going to be working this workshop series. We kicked it off last week up in Detroit, Laura Trump and I, and we're going to be doing one in North Carolina this week. We're going to be doing one in Philadelphia. We're going to be up in New York, out on Long Island, doing one, and we're going to be coming to a city near you, basically as part of this national tour. We're calling it a protectthevote.com tour to make sure that everybody is aware that we need to have the people in the room when votes are being cast and being counted.
Have you had good response so far? Do you have people signing up to be poll watchers?
Absolutely. People are coming out of the woodwork. People understand what happened in 2020 cannot ever happen again. And the only way that we can really, truly prevent that from happening is being there. We need to make sure that we get out the vote. We need to make sure that we are turning out voters in every battleground states like Virginia. But we also need to make sure that the sanctity of the vote is protected, and that people trust the system. They trust that their vote is going to count, that it's not going to be flipped, that it's not, going to be outweighed by illegal immigrants voting, things along those lines. And when we get that done, it will have a big impact on our turnout. But I'll tell you, our number one priority at the RNC right now for both me and Laura is making sure that we're protecting the vote.
We had Congressman Andy Biggs on a few minutes ago, and we were talking to him about a New York Post report this weekend indicating that 49 American states provide voter registration forms to everybody, including illegal aliens, that they don't require proof of citizenship as they hand out these voter registration forms. Give us a sense of your concern here, Michael Whatley, and what can be done to prevent so many millions of illegals from interfering in our election?
Yeah, this is a huge concern of ours. I mean, look, it is illegal in all 50 states for an illegal alien to register to vote. It is absolutely against the law right now. We understand that the Biden administration is pushing every state to provide voter registration information to anyone who comes in to get benefits, including illegals. They should not be doing that. So we are pushing very hard against the Biden administration. The House Government Affairs Committee just issued subpoenas against all 15 federal departments and agencies that are engaged in these activities, pushing it right now. We're pushing back at the state level with every single state, telling them it is illegal for you to register these people to vote. Don't do it. What we need to have everybody do that's listening to your show, folks all across Virginia and every state, frankly, is one, sign up at protectthevote.com to find out more about what's going on. And two, they need to reach out to their legislators and their governors and their secretaries of state and tell them, make sure that you're not registering illegal aliens to vote.
Right, and the state attorneys general, too, to get some lawsuits fired up against the Biden administration, get some injunctions in place ahead of Election Day. I mean, there's a lot of effort to be undertaken here. I know you're all over it. Michael Whatley, thank you very much for your time today. We'll have to have you back again soon as this election continues, sir. Thank you very much.
We'll be on anytime. We really appreciate you, Vince, and all of your listeners.
Thank you very much. That's Michael Whatley, the chairman of the Republican National Committee, with our ongoing series looking at how we can ensure that 2024 is close to a free and fair election, as close as we can possibly get. Of course, you hear from President Trump on a routine basis. Too big to rig is the goal here. And if you can get a huge turnout, you can really, tilt things in the proper direction. More in a moment, including your calls. More on that secret plot coming up. Charlie Spiering will be joining us here in just a few moments. I've got William calling in from Manassas, line 2. William, good afternoon, sir. You're on the Vince Coglianese Show.
Hey, Vince. I noticed with the requirements for the CNN debate, they have, I think, they requires 4 15% polls, and I think also for the the candidates to be on the ballot in enough states to win the election, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, the funny thing is that, technically speaking, neither Trump nor Biden fulfill the ballot requirement because neither of them are officially the nominees yet. And so that's actually technically violating the FEC.
Interesting.
Because I think there actually were reports that the specific requirements that the Biden, because obviously the Biden administration, CNN set it up, whatever, were specifically made to make sure that Robert F. Kennedy was not on the stage, because if he was on the stage, then it's a free for all.
Yeah, well, there's no question that this was designed to try and prevent Kennedy from getting on that stage. That's and right now, it is true that Kennedy has an impact on both Trump and Biden, but all of the available polling demonstrates that it's much more detrimental to Joe Biden to have Robert F. Kennedy Jr. on that stage. And clearly, the guy who's in the driver's seat, or at least the people in the driver's seat, have been the Biden campaign, which is why, as Michael Whatley just pointed out moments ago, President Trump instantly said, yeah, I'll do it, whatever. He called their bluff. I think they were kind of under the impression that he would have other demands. He's like, no, I'll be there. If you want to do it on CNN, you want to restrict it down to just the two of us, you want to have no audience, you want shut off microphones, whatever, I'll just do it just to get us on a debate stage together. But you're right. I mean, right now, Robert F. Kennedy not on this stage. And the reason for that to me seems as clear to both of us as it could possibly be. Biden doesn't want him there.
Yeah, because if you have this 80-year-old Biden who's falling asleep, and then this again 70-year-old guy who is able to do pull-ups and swim and hike whatever.
Yeah.
And because clearly has his faculties about him whatever that there's some guy clearly has more than the other.
Well, and they've been working to keep him off state ballots too.
Yeah.
They don't want him on state ballots because they're not for, quote, democracy. They're not trying to defend any sort of democratic norms. They want to prevent voters from having options, William, and that includes precluding both Donald Trump and Robert F. Kennedy Jr. from appearing on ballots wherever they can do it.
But yeah, I think if Kennedy goes on that stage, whatever, I think that would be I think the Biden campaign would be in a world of hurt, and I think at that point it would be a Trump-Kennedy race.
I think you're onto something. That's why they're trying to stop it. Thank you, William. I really appreciate the call, sir. That's William in Manassas. Let's see. Michael's calling in from Woodbridge, line 3. Michael, you're on the Vince Coglianese Show. Hello, sir.
Yeah, Vince, you've had a great show today, and there's been a running theme of standing up and lawfare and pushing back.
Right.
And I've already called the State Attorney General's office for Virginia, Attorney General Miaris. These states have got to start pushing back. They need to sue the Fed. And I would suggest, just for entertainment value, use the Fannie Willis charging sheet. Conspiracy against rights, conspiracy to defraud the U.S., conspiracy. I would use literally the same charges because we know whatever they're charging you, whatever they accuse you of is what they're doing.
Good point.
And yes, these states have entered into a contract with the federal government. No, I can't throw them back.
Yeah, and I know, and in cases like this in the past, these things have been thrown out. Oh, you don't have standing. I don't know. If you're killing hundreds of thousands of our citizens by aiding and abetting a border crisis with all the drugs that are pouring in as a result, if you're trafficking human beings and if you're bringing crime into my community, at what point do I have standing? Just wondering. Coming up on the program, Charlie Spiering is here. Is there an effort afoot to replace Biden? He's got new details. Good afternoon to you. 535 News Talk 105.9 WMAL, where we're making sense of the news. You can join us 888-630-9625, 888-630-WMAL. Another very senior moment for Joe Biden this weekend as Barack Obama has to grab him by the wrist and drag him off stage from a big star-studded fundraiser that they were holding to try and drag Joe Biden across the finish line. Here's Biden mumbling that event.
And guess what? It's growing. The economy's growing. People are doing better. We have the lowest unemployment rate in 50 years. We have more people. We've had over 15 million people brand new hired into the workforce. My son says we all have various short-term descriptions for your jobs, for what you accomplished. And you should say Joe Jobs.
Obama sitting nearby, staring at him, pleading quietly for him to complete his sentence. It's also sad. But what comes next? Will Democrats replace Joe Biden ahead of Election Day? Here to detail what we're finding out now, Charlie Spiering. He's a Washington, D.C. political reporter for the Daily Mail, the author of the book Amateur Hour, Kamala Harris in the White House, and with some new reporting on this subject today. Charlie, good to talk to you, sir.
Hey, Vince. Thanks for having me on.
All right. Well, your piece is getting a lot of attention today. The headline, Secret Democrat Plot, that is, to replace Biden revealed. What's going on? Is there an effort to actually replace this guy?
Well, at this point, there's not an official, they have not reached the official point where they're saying now is the time to pull the trigger, go, go, go. But there exists this idea of a plan where top Democratic luminaries will have to unite, gather together, and make the decision about whether or not they should pull the ripcord and risk replacing Joe Biden at this point. And that's sort of what we're looking at. Every day there's new video, there's new questions about his ability to serve another 4 years. even his ability to make it to Election Day. That's why if some of the Democrat Party in-sources say that if we need to replace him, here's how it will go down, and that's sort of what top party luminaries are.
Well, normally when you think of the party leadership, if you have someone in your own party who is the president of the United States, you usually say, well, that guy's the leader of their party. In Biden's case, most of us don't think that way. Who is leading the Democratic Party?
So right now, it would be Chuck Schumer, the House majority or the Senate Majority Leader. It would be Nancy Pelosi, who's clearly still in charge, even though she's no longer the Speaker. And then you have former President Barack Obama, and you have former President Bill Clinton. If those four were to come together, unite, and tell Joe Biden, or to gently prod him off the stage, then that would sort of lead to a situation where that conversation would have to begin. But it's also very high risk, which is why they're not ready to pull the trigger quite yet.
So what are the indicators that they would move in that direction? We see, you mentioned at the outset, these videos of the vacant expression on Joe Biden's face, the inability to complete public events with any clarity. That obviously seems like something worth watching. Are they also watching these polling numbers closely?
Absolutely, and they're really looking at the next debate, and this June debate that the Biden team has worked hard to sort of set up in advance. Part of the reason they're doing that, pushing to have a debate in early June, because they want to convince voters that Joe Biden is still able to run for president. If Joe Biden can do the impossible and get in there and perform well at the debate, then that sort of sets Democrats more at ease. That helps them sort of accept that he will be the candidate. If the opposite occurs, if Biden makes a big mistake on the debate stage, that might be the time to pull the ripcord.
Well, yeah. So conversely, not only is it an effort to try and convince people early, it's also a chance for the party elders to stare at him a little earlier in the cycle and assess whether or not it is time to throw the hook around him.
Absolutely. This gives them a chance to, if they need those extra months, then they can actually make it happen.
It is amazing. I don't know what's going to happen. I will say that I hope he prevails in the debate because I would prefer him on the ballot. At the very least, just have a passable performance that doesn't lead Barack Obama to jump in. I thought Obama's body language was very telling at that fundraiser, though. He's clearly a guy who's convinced that he is in charge of every room he's in, as he grabs Joe Biden, the president of the United States, grabs him by the wrist and drags him off stage, Charlie Spiering.
Yes, it was also very interesting because it almost seemed like a sigh of relief, right? And it seemed like Obama was sort of on edge. You saw in that clip that you played earlier where he's watching the president try to complete a sentence. Careful not to say anything, careful not to jump in, because they know that any optics of him showing up will hurt the president. Well, at the end of that event, when he just grabs Joe's hand and tries to escort him off the stage, it's almost like a sigh of relief. We completed the event. Let's get out of here. Don't just stand here. It's making it look awkward. If only he had held off a little bit longer, maybe we wouldn't have so many questions about what does the president know about Joe Biden that we don't.
The White House today is insisting that they're merely very close friends. That's Karine Jean-Pierre. She's also claiming that all of these videos that are going around of Biden having trouble, processing information and moving are just, quote, sheep fakes, a new term that the left has cooked up today to try and make excuses for what we're seeing on these tapes. You've covered the White House for years. You've been in that briefing room so many times. What do you make of the way the White House is describing all of this today?
Well, it's very telling that Karine Jean-Pierre really came out as strong as she can to sort of condemn and make a moment of condemning these videos and pushing back against them. Didn't do a very good job, especially when she was referring to a statement from President Barack Obama's office about the incident that doesn't actually exist.
Oh, and it doesn't exist?
Telling reporters to refer back to the statement. What she was referring to is a tweet from one of his spokespeople. And there's no official statement from Barack Obama about this moment. And it really was quite telling that she was unprepared for this briefing, even as though she had some rehearsed talking points about the video clips.
How about that?
She just wasn't prepared for it.
Not surprised by that, but I didn't know that. So, yeah, when she referred, and we played some audio earlier, she referred to, I refer you to a statement from President Obama. There is no such statement. It was merely just somebody in his orbit who tweeted out some sort of perspective or claim.
Yeah, and as we know, tweets do not represent official statements from former presidents' offices. I don't care how hard you try.
Yeah, that's remarkable. A hunch that I have on this subject is, and I'm confident that this is the case. The reason the White House is freaking out so much about this is not because people like me have noticed Biden's decline. It seems like it's because they're worried about their own base noticing and holding it against him.
Yeah, it's a lot of that. The more they go out there and meet with voters, the more questions they have. They've been trying to put this idea that I call it the Great Biden Replacement Theory. You know, the idea that somehow he'll be replaced, because there's so many voters who still can't believe what they see in front of their eyes. So many Democrats wondering, why are we doing this again? Don't we have any other Democrats who can fight, who can win, who can beat Trump? Somebody more vigorous, somebody younger than both of them. I think there's a deep desperation within the party, and they're really trying to make that go away, but it's only getting worse.
Yeah, you note in your reporting today that there are any number of Democrats who are now beginning to say out loud that they're very concerned about the state of Joe Biden, whether that's David Axelrod or James Carville or Atlanta columnist Mark Leibovich. Nate Silver, he's a lefty, but he's with 538, the polling website. They're all kind of openly declaring right now that either they wish Biden had not run again, or in Nate Silver's case, he's saying that there is still time, but it's running out for him to be swapped out.
Yeah, absolutely. And what they're voicing is what they feel like they have to do as quote unquote journalists. They have to sort of at least give a voice to this eruption this controlled eruption within the Democratic Party, even among those in D.C. who admit that there's real problems here, and they're just really, hoping that the president can stay upright until November.
All right. Well, Charlie Spiering over at the Daily Mail with some excellent reporting today, indicating that if they're going to replace Biden, it's going to take the top four in their party. That's Bill Clinton, Barack Obama, Nancy Pelosi, and Chuck Schumer, all conspiring together to make the move, make the switch. Thank you very much, Charlie Spiering, for your reporting and your time as always, sir.
You bet.
Thanks
for having me.
Of course, always. That's Charlie Spiering with the excellent Daily Mail. Meanwhile, President Trump's campaign has been, vigorous. A lot more vigorous than Joe Biden's, that's for sure. Trump was in Michigan this weekend. He was holding a roundtable with a bunch of black leaders in Detroit. Here is Trump in Michigan talking about his record.
We achieved the lowest African-American unemployment rate and the lowest African-American poverty rate ever recorded during my 4 years. We lifted 6.6 million people out of poverty. Black Americans saw their largest increase in home ownership on record. There's never been anything like it. This is during our period of time. We gave record funding to historically black colleges and universities. You all know that.
Yeah, there he is. So he's in Detroit. He was speaking at a Detroit church, holding this roundtable. The senior pastor of, is it called 180 Church? Is that the name of it? I think that's the name of the church. Lorenzo Sewell had this to say about President Trump being there, and the fact is that Obama and Biden, they've never done that.
President Trump, I'm so humbled that you would be here. President Obama never came to the hood, so to speak, right? President Joe Biden, he went to the big NAACP dinner, but he never came to the hood. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Pastor.
Very humble.
Really nice. Thank you. My honor.
That's becoming a bit of a trend, isn't it? You think of the Bronx visit a couple weeks ago as well. And you're not seeing Biden in those environments. You're not watching. He's in these very controlled Hollywood-style environments surrounded by people like Julia Roberts and George Clooney and Jack Black, but not going and mixing it up with regular people all across the country. Atasha Dotson was at that event with Trump talking about her convenience store.
I love the things that you talk about, Trump. I believe that I know you're a stand-up man, and I know you're going to do what you say you're going to do. And I'm rooting for you.
A lot of positive reaction there at that event. Meanwhile, over on CNN, they're panicking about the state of the black vote in the country as President Trump accrues more and more support in a demographic that CNN told us would never vote for Trump.
So where does the race stand among African-American voters right now?
Yeah, I keep looking for this to change, to go back to a historical norm. And it's simply put, has not yet. So this is the margin, or Biden and Trump among black voters, compare where we were at this point in 2020, compare where we are now. You know, at this point, look at this. In 2020, Joe Biden was getting 86% of the African-American vote. Look at where it is now. It's 70%. That's a 16-point drop, John. And more than that, it's not just that Joe Biden is losing ground, it's that Donald Trump is gaining ground. You go from 7%, single digits at this point in 2020, to now 21%. And again, John, I keep looking for signs that this is going to go back to normal, and I don't see it yet in the polling. If anything, right now we're careening towards a historic performance for Republican presidential candidate, the likes of which we have not seen in 6 decades.
He may want to widen the lens a bit when he says he's looking for signs it's going back to normal. It's literally going back to normal. Black voters moving back in the direction of the Republican Party. That is what we would refer to as normal in the longer view of American history than the one that Harry Enton has. But there he is on CNN saying, I'm looking for this going back in Biden's direction. It's not. The momentum appears to all be on Trump's side. Over on MSNBC, they had a coping session with a Biden spokesman called Michael Tyler.
Over the weekend, the Trump campaign launched a Black Americans for Trump coalition. Your campaign mocked it and said it's not fooling anyone. But look at this. USA Today Suffolk polls show from Michigan and Pennsylvania specifically, these are two key swing states. They show President Biden has lost roughly 20 points among black voters in both of those states, down from 76% to the mid-50s. Of course,
those are massive numbers. That's even more than what CNN was referring to, those specific states.
In a close election, that can make a huge difference. Why do you think the president is losing support with these voters?
Well, listen, this campaign is going to do very good amongst black voters because no administration has done more for black America.
If you just say it, it's going to happen? Is that how that works?
Than the Biden-Harris administration.
But why is he losing support right now?
Well, listen, this is what the campaign is for.
People are poor. You want more answers? Their paychecks aren't going as far. Everything's much more expensive. They don't like illegal immigrants pouring across the border. How many answers do you need?
I have to remind people of exactly where we have come from and where we are going. That's why we're running ads.
They remember where they came from, and they don't like where they're going.
Consistently. That's why we're reminding people of the things that this administration has done for black America.
Don't worry. All the reminders are everywhere. You don't have to spend much time reminding us. We know. We know. They're all over the place. They're all over the place. All right, hold on. I've got a lot more for you. As usual, here on the Vince Coglianese Show. It's the mother of Hunter Biden's child, cute little girl, Navy Roberts, who up until recently the White House pretended didn't even exist. Jill Biden refused to acknowledge the existence of their own granddaughter. No stocking at Christmas or anything. London Roberts is her mother, and she'll be joining me here on this program tomorrow. We're going to chat with her about her experience. She's got a new book out about all of this. Here she is speaking recently with Inside Edition about the Bidens.
She feels let down by President Biden and First Lady Dr. Jill, who only last summer finally publicly acknowledged Navy as their grandchild. Jill and I only want what is best for all of our grandchildren, including Navy, they told People magazine. But in December, they scrapped a long-standing Biden family tradition, Christmas stockings for every Biden grandchild.
Last year, 6 stockings. This year, instead of hanging the 7th, they're hanging none.
It's hurtful. It's hurtful to see that.
That's equity, by the way. That's what equity is.
It felt like a slap in the face, and not a slap in my face, but my daughter's. I think every mother hopes that their child is embraced by both sides of the family, because as a mother, there can't be enough people to love your child.
Yeah, we're going to chat with her about that, what her life is like now, how she's being treated, and what's going on with her and her daughter, how much they've had to endure in all of this. The other piece that is really fascinating and super bizarre is she's been reporting that her home is routinely broken into. She claims that her home has been broken into a number of times, and that at one point somebody had ripped the deadbolt out of the door and left it on the ground. She said nothing was stolen, but the home keeps getting broken into. Also, her phones. She says she's got 2 phones. Both of them fritzed out at the same time, went blank, and all sorts of messages on her iCloud account have been deleted, apparently related to Hunter Biden. There's a big mystery there. We're going to ask London Roberts about this tomorrow when she joins us right here on the Vince Coglianese Show. Looking forward to that, and looking forward to talking to you again. Great to have you with us. Start of a brand new week. The great one, Mark Levin, up next.